Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Happy evening, whatever time you're watching. I hope you are doing well. Hello and greetings from Connecticut. How are you? Write something in the chat. This is going to be a replay, but I still want to read something in the chat. I want to see engagement in the chat. Come on, moms, let's go. I want to see your name. I want to see your thoughts. I want to know, how is your summer wind down going? How is it going? This is the term that I've coined, the summer wind down. Because honestly, we are in the last 2 weeks of August. Here in the Northeast where I live and work, things are so quiet. So many people are still on vacation or have just shut down business, are closed, are not working, are so many specialized schools are taking a break, right, out of their 12-month schedule. And it is just a very, very quiet time of year. So welcome to everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Imari Ventura Roches. I am a licensed speech language pathologist. I'm the administrator for this group. I'm also an educational administrator and a special needs parents coach. It is more than a pleasure to be here, to meet you, to welcome you to this group. If you've never watched any of my Facebook chats, go into the featured, look at the videos, navigate, pick one, have fun, or check me out on YouTube. The handle is Communication Resources. Communication Resources is my private practice, so please join in the fun, get totally immersed, and catch up on all of the lives and recordings that are available to you. So, welcome everybody. Today is a bonus content night. A bonus content night, meaning that usually I come out, I speak about a topic, teach about a topic once a month. For July and August, I've just been able to get on 2 times in a month and give you some extra bonus um, recordings. And so I hope that you enjoy it. So, this is very topical tonight. Our title, our theme is getting back into the swing of things, getting back into the swing of things, transitioning back to school with ease. Again, transitioning back to school with ease. And so I just want to preference this by saying, many of you in districts across the country or wherever you live, some kids are already back, right? They've gone back, summer break is over, and they've gone back to school. In the Northeast where I live, school starts next week. The district that I work in, school starts the first week in September after Labor Day. So everybody's at a different point. However, most of us can agree we are at the beginning of the school year. We are and have transitioned from summer to the beginning of the school year, the 2025-26 school year. And so these are applicable to you. Also, there's an emphasis on children with special needs, right? Most obviously, and more specifically, children who demonstrate some sensory dysregulation and difficulty with transitions. These are suggestions for them. And so you're going to see me glance over a little bit, and that is because I have my notes here on my right-hand side. So let's talk about getting back into the swing of things, transitioning back to school with ease. Um, if you've been following me, if you've seen some of the work that I've done, I often I often educate parents about sensory regulation. Okay. We have five senses: feel, look, taste, sound, and smell. And so we use our five senses to process information about the environment, about the outside world. It registers and it helps us to understand our environment. So, children who are dysregulated because of one thing or another, part of their diagnosis or not, um, can really struggle through transitions, right? Because there's sort of a disruption in the way that they're processing information through those five senses as things are changing, right? There's an issue with change. And so I'm giving you practical strategies, right, to be able to do that with ease because smoother days certainly begin with self-regulation. When you're able to ease transitions, reduce stress, you're able to support a child's success. Okay, let's say that again because the educational benefit is always, always, always important. When you're able to ease transitions and reduce stress, you support a child's success. All right, the think about it like removing obstacles, removing difficulties, right? So that a child can just move through things ever so smoothly with minimal problems, minimal stress, minimal discomfort. Okay. And so that's what we're talking about today. Transitioning from summer, where let's be real, summertime is often a little bit less structured, lower expectations, lower demands, to back into higher expectations, higher demands, and more structure, okay, in the classroom, in the school environment. So your first point is predictability and routine. Okay. We need predictability and routine as we get back into the swing of things and transition back to school with ease. Predictability and routine is number one. Number one, predictability and routine. Why does this matter? Children with special needs often thrive off of structure, right? Knowing that there are limits and boundaries to what they can do and how they can behave and how as they navigate spaces they recognize and can anticipate limitations and boundaries. Okay, the sudden shift from summer to school schedules can cause anxieties and sensory overwhelm. Okay, sensory overstimulation. Some strategies. Create a visual daily schedule using pictures, symbols, or written words, depending on the child's needs. If you guys go back to June, I did a live and I showed you the schedule that I use for my kids. One is 8, one is 4. Okay, so there's an age difference here. 8-year-old is literate. My 4-year-old is not. My 8-year-old, I have words. My 4-year-old, I still use pictures. And so you need to make it according. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be extravagant or extensive, but it has to make sense and be applicable to your life. Practice morning and bedtime routines a week or two before school starts. So, shower, brush your teeth, bed, whatever the sequence is, just do it. Okay, do it a couple of times before school starts. And also use a countdown sort of system, a clear countdown before school starts. Let them know how many sleeps, right? How many sleeps before school starts. That could be something as simple as you just crossing off days on your kitchen calendar, but let them see how much more time is left. Let them anticipate, right, what is to come. Okay, so your number one for transitioning back with ease, getting into the swing of things is predictability and routine. Point number two, preparing for the environment. Preparing for the environment. You got to go back somewhere last school year about what I spoke about sensory regulation and triggers. And I spoke about ASD and stimming. You have control over the environment, right? Not you personally necessarily all the time, but the adults, right? We have control over the environment. So it matters because new classrooms, new teachers, and unfamiliar sensory input can trigger dysregulation. If you know your child has never been there, it could be if you have a child who's hyperactive and you take them into a big wide open space, it can trigger them in a way that it wouldn't if they were in a small and enclosed space, right? So anticipating the environment and preparing the environment matter. Some things you can do. Arrange a visit, arrange a school visit. I coordinate placing for preschoolers, and I oftentimes, like 99% of the time, ask the parent to go out and take a tour. And in that tour, the parent is walking around the building, seeing what they like, asking questions about the program, and the child pushes in and spends 15 or 20 minutes in the classroom. I personally request this because before the first day, that practice and walking the hallways, visiting the classrooms, and even going into the cafeteria can really uh, be good exposure for the child to have and decrease, right? The occurrence of a meltdown, a crisis, and just give the adults some frame of reference of how the child would behave, right? So it's very helpful. Um, it's like a rehearsal. I did it for my 8-year-old this week. We went to school. We did meet the teacher. We went to school. She colored her name tag and we looked at the desk. We saw the classroom. We met the teacher. We saw familiar faces. We saw the layout of the classroom, how the desks were arranged. So it all makes a difference in preparation of the environment. If you can, creating a photo book of important people and reviewing it at home and saying, oh, well, that's Mrs. So-and-so, and that's your teacher's aide, and this is this one. It could also be very helpful in preparing the environment and giving some exposure to support that transition. Pack a sensory toolkit. Now, this is iffy, right? Because some schools, some teachers may allow you and some may not. I would definitely say if you drive your child to school or something like that, you can have a little box in your car. Um, Having these things at home is always helpful, but have it there, right, to help regulate before, and then you really have to check in and see if it's okay to have fidgets during the school day. But having these things on deck, clutch is very helpful, having them available, okay? And I'll tell you why later, but just having them is very helpful. Okay, point number 3, right? So in getting back in the swing of things and supporting transitions after summer break, we spoke about predictability and routine. We spoke about preparing the environment. Your third point is support sensory needs. Support sensory needs. Children with sensory processing difficulties can be overwhelmed by noise, by bright lights, and crowded spaces. So it's important to have the awareness of what triggers your child and then a strategy to help reduce for that specific trigger, right? So work with the school to identify quiet zones. If you over the summer, if you in your home recognize that your child is overwhelmed with noise, or that they put their hands over their ears, or that they really get upset in the presence of noise, work with the school to identify quiet zones. It could be a library corner, a resource room, or a hallway break spot. If your child has an accommodation like breaks or something like that, you may want to identify, talk about that, let them know so they don't miss it. And then talk about where the quiet spaces are in the building that will help support the need for a break during testing or a break during instruction, but please do identify the quiet zones in the building. Teach your child self-advocacy phrases, okay? So, even when I'm testing, I'm doing evaluations, but I always give a phrase to help a child when they feel stuck. Okay. Feeling stuck, not knowing the answer is a real point of frustration for a lot of kids and can trigger emotional dysregulation as well as sensory dysregulation. And so a phrase would be something like, I need a break, or it's too loud. I know when I'm testing and I recognize that kids come up on cognitive overload. Like it's just too much. It's fatiguing. I tell them, you can tell me skip it, right? Give them the language so that they don't have to retrieve the word and that they can easily use this to get themselves unstuck and keep moving. Okay. It makes for a smoother transition. Use morning sensory regulation activities. So I did a reel, I don't know when, sometime between maybe May and June on a sensory diet. I've spoken to many schools about a sensory diet, and I've really seen a lot of programs come up with some good activities. If you have a little bit of time in the morning, something you can do to support sensory regulation are jumping jacks, right? Deep pressure hugs, weighted lap pads, or weighted blankets. Stretching also would help, right? Just to prepare the central nervous system for the day. I have been very transparent about how I have a very bouncy boy. Um, and I've come out with some sensory regulation tools, one of which is a weighted blanket, and it's very, very helpful. I never advocate for parents to spend money that they don't have or that it's, they have allocated for something else. But I will say, if your child's dysregulated, if they are the type of child who needs deep pressure and proprioceptive input, um, something like a weighted lap pad or a weighted blanket is very helpful. I read a sensory diet for a child that I'm helping in a school, and they use a weighted lap pad during breakfast. They use weighted utensils, and it's all very helpful for kids who are bouncy, essentially, and need heavy work, right? So a morning routine that just has some sensory regulation activities embedded within is very helpful and very grounding for the central nervous system, very regulating for the central nervous system. So that is your point number 3 in transitioning back to school with ease. Support sensory needs, recognize the deficit, and get whatever they need, give them the language they need so that they can move forward in that. Okay, point number 4, shifting, manage transitions. So this is all about transitions, right? The micro transitions and the macro transitions and the micro transitions. The macro transition is summer vacation to back to school, right? That's a huge transition. And it's like kind of like even sudden. It's like even as adults, we're like, it's August, it's September, it just happens. And then the micro transitions are getting up every morning at 6 a.m., getting back in a schedule, leaving the house at a certain time. These are all micro transitions. So manage them. Shifting from one activity to another, from home to school is especially hard for children with special needs. Your strategy, use warnings, right? Verbal countdowns, timers, visual timers to let them know how much time they have to anticipate getting ready and going. Pair transitions. So um, you can pair a motivating activity with something that's not that motivating, something that's really fun with something that's not. After we pack your backpack, you can choose the first song in the car, right? Packing the backpack is not that fun, not that exciting for a lot of kids. Pack your backpack, and then you can pick what your snack is going to be for the day. So try to get them on board. By motivating them with something that they like to do after they do something they don't like to do. I do that a lot. Okay. Create a first, then chart, right? First math, then art, for example, to make transitions feel more manageable, right? Make them feel rewarded, like there's something to work for, like there's light at the end of the tunnel. You really are going to have to do that to help shift the thing to what you need them to do. Okay. So we're talking about getting back into the swing of things, transitioning back to school with ease, right? For children with special needs, sensory dysregulation, and who we recognize have challenges with transitions. Our last point here is to build emotional safety. Um, I mean, you know, because children with disabilities and without can have such a hard time using the language to express their feelings in a understandable way. It's very important to build emotional safety, right? Emotional regulation sets the foundation for learning. Sensory regulation in big part does also, but emotional regulation is very, very important. I have evaluated children, this summer, the end of the school year last year, who had big challenges with emotional regulation. They um, just broke out crying, or they were very sad or very angry, and it was a true obstacle to getting through the testing. So emotional regulation matters. It's important because it sets the foundation. Some strategies. Set, depending on your child's age and the policies of your school, send a comfort item from home. Could be a small photo or a stress toy, um, or even a note in the lunchbox. Those are really sweet things to do, and they're very comforting to just remind your child that they are still connected with home. Role play, social scenarios. That's always really fun for a couple of reasons, but I think the most pronounced reason is that you're giving your child the language, right, that they need to navigate social situations. So, for example, greetings, asking for help, joining a game at recess, right? How do you, or even like just breaking the ice? How do you talk to new people that you don't know, you've never met before? Another point in building emotional safety is build in, this is so important, okay? If nothing else from this part about emotional safety, this is like so important. Build in after school decompression time. I spoke to a principal yesterday, and the parents' big concern was emotional regulation and how the child is just wild at home. Nobody else saw it. At the school, nowhere else did any, nobody saw these behaviors that the parents spoke about. The child can regulate emotionally just fine at school. There's a lot of pressure that's being put on them. Even when they're in a special class, even when they have modified instruction and lots of accommodations, there's a lot of pressure that's put on a child during the school day, right? Pressure to sit up straight and to sit in your chair, to sit up straight, to sit quiet. Pressure to sit and read and learn. Pressure to be quiet and take your turn speaking. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of rules that have to be implemented to have a class that's orderly, and that we can meet the targets. So when they get home, imagine a bottle that's just all bottled up. At the moment that it has the chance to open, everything would come out. So they are under pressure because the teachers, the staff, put them under pressure throughout the day, put them under pressure to learn, to achieve, and succeed. So when they come home, sometimes, you might see a change in mood, you might see different emotions emerge. So please, please, please build in after school decompression time. They're just so full. They need to decompress. Could be quiet play, a favorite snack, a calming activity before homework, or extracurricular activities. Um, there was a time that I was able to pick up my daughter from school, and I would carry the bicycle in my trunk or the scooter, and we would go to the playground, and she would scoot and ride around that playground, around the park rather, park and playground. She would ride and scoot right around, and she would just feel so free and so good, and it made a huge difference in her mood and um, activity level and overall happiness by the time we got home. She was just ready to get on with spelling words, to do homework, and it was nice. So you've got to realize that they need time to de-stress after a full day of school. So be assured it takes time to adjust or readjust, right? Back into routines, back into the swing of things, back into the school year. And with getting back to the swing of things, is a new teacher, there are new friends, new faces, a new composition of the class, new homework, new things. So it takes time, patience, and small steps. Encourage collaboration with teachers, therapists, support staff, even administrators from the beginning. Let them know who you are. Let them, if you're unable to be, in school, let them have your phone number. Make sure it's updated in the system, however they do it. But just let your presence be known, and let the school know you are open to communicating. Invite parents to share their own strategies, comment, build community. I know for in our school, we have a third grade moms chat in a WhatsApp, and we speak and we comment and we talk and we read, and it's lovely. So if you don't have that, start it, and make sure that you are constantly building community with other moms and dads. And so with preparation, patience, the right tools, you can start off this year feeling supported and ready to succeed. It's going to be a great year. You have everything that you need in you to support your child, to have them thrive. You have this community with other moms who've been there, who are going to be there, who have been on the other side. You have me, you have tons of resources. You have videos on an IEP meeting, what makes a good IEP meeting, a list of AI prompts to ask good questions during an IEP meeting, and then how do you know the IEP meeting went well? So you are more than prepared. Be assured, feel confident, and walk into this school year knowing that your child will progress and do well. Please book a one-to-one with me if you have any questions. I would love to, reach out to talk, comment, connect, chat. If you're in New York, Connecticut, or Massachusetts, please consider me as your next speech and language therapist privately after school hours or weekends, and I would be happy to meet you and your family and your child to discuss a therapy plan that will help them increase their verbal or nonverbal communication skills. It was so nice to have this to talk. Congratulations to everybody who started back. Welcome back to all the kids who are coming back to school across the country. It's going to be the best year yet. And I will see you next time. Look out for September's monthly focus, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Thank you, and bye.